this is our last breakfast before we head out. We're going to set sail for the ocean right after we eat our breakfast, and we're sad to leave Terceira, but we're really excited for the next step. So we'll see you on the water, and wish us fair winds and following seas.
Quite a lovely day. We got a light drizzle, a lot of wind, and we're doing about 7 knots under our staysail and trysail. So we found that standing right here in the companionway under the Dodger, you stay dry and you can still keep a lookout. Only problem is you literally are standing watch. It's really old after a few hours. In our video we did on keels of like fin and full keel and stuff, one of the comments asked, you know, how does a full keel actually track in heavy weather? Because, you know, like full keels are touted as being ideal for the ocean when you're making a long passage, because the long full keel doesn't want to turn and it just holds your course. So the question was, how much steering does the wind vane have to do to keep you going straight to hold your course? Well, 2 ways to answer this. One, I actually sailed for 5 years without a wind vane, because all I do is just lock the helm and it would hold its course for about a half hour until one wave finally just knocked it enough off course that I needed to go correct the course again. So that should tell you that right there, not much steering has to happen. But this is, we got like 6 to 8 foot following seas. Well, we're actually on a broad reach, so they're coming at us from the starboard corner, and there's some hefty sized waves, and that's what the wheel's doing to help counteract and keep us from broaching and everything. So all it's doing are just minor little course adjustments, and that's it.
We're going really fast. We're going really fast. That's positive. I'm trying to stay positive. It's not fun, but you know, this is what cruising is. You have good days and bad days. Our first day out was amazing. Our first full day out. It was really beautiful. And these second 2 days, not so great. But you take the good with the bad, and you know, we'll have good days to come. We just have to get through these couple of days of discomfort.
So what's going on is a low came in. So we left, you know, on a really nice day. We were sailing away, and then this low came in, has a ton of wind, so has some rain. And yeah, so that just pretty much means that we're rocking around a lot. So walking around the boat's not too comfortable. So then you don't really want to get out of bed, because there's, you know, you're gonna be thrown all over the place. So we're literally just heading as north as we can. That way, when the next wind shift comes, and because we're actually in the westerlies, which means that the wind's supposed to be blowing out of the west, but the wind has been blowing out of the east and southeast this whole time. We're just heading north, and then as soon as the westerlies are restored, then we'll start heading east and be on a downwind run. Go-to storm food is
Canned peaches. Stocked up on a bunch of these just in case. We always do before a long passage. And they're great because you don't have to do anything to prepare them, and you're getting fruit.
And lots of sugar. Because Maddie, if she doesn't get enough sugar, she starts puking. So first thing in the morning, she needs to eat something. Otherwise, it's not pretty. But Maddie, eating is pretty.
Grace, I watched you sleeping, all worn out and dreaming. You slept through the fall. I know you love this time of year. It always made you smile.
This is the beauty of AIS. So I'm out on watch and well, look. Nothing. I see absolutely nothing out there. But the alarm was going off because this guy is gonna be within about a half mile from us in a half hour. So we can see where he is, his name. The only annoying part is it keeps beeping. But so I've already talked to the guy, and he knows we're here, and he's gonna, you know, turn to not hit us. That's pretty cool because, I mean, honestly, this is the first ship that's shown up on AIS in like 3 days. Like once we left Tercera, no one's out here. Yeah, it's really pleasant if you're trying to sleep. And if it weren't for AIS, we'd have never even known that he was out there. Now let's face it, gray skies kind of get you down. It's nice to have that nice blue sky out there. It's been a while. It's been about a good 40 minutes. And now I can see him. And I also know that when we pass by, we're gonna have 1.5 miles between us, which it's a huge ocean. So in my opinion, 1.5 miles is close. But there's no guesswork or anything. It's like, there he is, and no, we're not gonna hit. So it's pretty cool. AIS is just awesome. Yeah, he's tiny. I don't think you guys can see him in here. But he's out there. We don't have radar. We don't have weather facts or I don't have anything. We have lights. And then we have AIS. And that's really all you need is that. And then Navionics on your phone, because it's so easy. Why not? He's a little under the weather with the seasickness. We've been booking it. We've been doing over 100 miles a day for what, 3 days now? I think, yeah. I mean, 3.5 days. So today our average speed is 5.7, which doesn't sound like much. But for us, when we crossed the Atlantic, our average speed was 3.5. So we're like really going fast for us. Now, the downside is it's a lot of sloshing, a lot of rolling, and Maddie gets seasick, so she's out. Now, the awesome thing, the new galley I built, this gimbaled stove, I just put the stuff on it, light it, I don't have to hold it, I don't have to do anything. It's making our food. So that is super awesome. All this time we've been heading north because we had an east wind. The winds have finally started to clock around, so now they're northeast, and then the next setting is going to be north. So we changed tacks because as it was with the now northeast wind and the current, which we're near the Gulf Stream, we're not actually in it anymore. So we're actually riding one of the countercurrents. So that was taking us due west. So we changed tacks. But now, thanks to that countercurrent, instead of going east, we're now going southeast. So we're just gonna go southeast for a little bit, hop back into the Gulf Stream, and then hopefully by the time we're in the Gulf Stream, the winds have also shifted and come more from the north, and then we'll be heading due east towards Portugal.
This has not been an easy one. I've been kind of down and out the whole time, which sucks. And this morning I woke up and threw up, and then I had a migraine. So that sucks.
Well, we've shot north really far, about 350 miles north of the Azores, and the reason we did that was to then go around the Azores high and then come down with the Portuguese trade winds and the Portuguese current that goes along its coast and drop right into Porto. Now, usually this whole area is known as the westerlies, and the winds blow consistently out of the west, except right now. When we left the Azores, the winds were blowing really strongly out of the east, so against the trade winds. So we can't go east into an east wind because we don't go to windward very well. So we took that opportunity and shot straight north as far as we could. We made it to about 44.5 degrees north. Like yesterday we did 120 miles in a day. So that was really awesome. But now the winds have shifted again, still not from the west, now they're out of the north. So, and they're northeast to northeast, so in that area. So that means that now we're beating. Those birds are having a heyday.
We've learned that when we see large flocks of fishing birds, we can also see dolphins. It's pretty much a rule out here.
Yeah, and the really cool thing is that means there's fish there. So if we had our fishing gear ready, that would be the time to drop a hook.
Yeah.
Today's a day with some super duper light winds. So we're not really going to be going anywhere, so I don't really have to be watching as strictly because we're not moving, so it's not a big issue. So I'm going to take this time and use it to tackle some projects. The head door, it's always been a little sticky. And like it won't, not that the door is sticky, but that the door doesn't want to open or close too easily. So I'm going to plane that sucker down, make it fit better. No more sticking. How you doing this morning?
Feeling a lot better this morning. Finally getting to eat real food. Hopefully gonna keep it down.
So when we left, there's a lot of wind, and we've been flying our trysail for about a week now. Just trysail and staysail, and we've moved. We're about 400 miles north of the island. We've just gone really far with tiny sails up because there's been a lot of wind. But now the winds seem to have vanished. So we got a high pressure coming in. The winds are getting light, so we're going to switch out the trysail for our actual sails. First, we dine.
Peeking out. She's like, I don't want to be in this egg. I'm a yolk. So this voyage has been really different from our previous one in a number of ways. Some good and some bad. The biggest difference is probably the temperature. We're much further north than we were last time around when we were starting at Bermuda and heading up to the Azores. Now we're heading up from the Azores to Portugal mainland, and it's quite a bit colder. It's no longer like magical nights on watch with stars and bioluminescence and stuff. Now it's like bundle yourself up and just hunker down and ride it out. Now the reason we're going up is because unlike last time, we can't actually go straight towards our destination. So what most people with diesel motors do at this point is they just go straight across through the big old high pressure system with no wind and end up in Portugal, although they don't necessarily take into account the heavy currents running south, so they end up in Lisbon a lot of times when they're heading for Porto. We, of course, don't have a diesel motor, and so we're having to kind of go up and around that big high pressure in the middle, which is forcing us to go a lot of miles extra, which we didn't have to do the first time around, but you know, this is how we are. We go by the winds and we don't have the luxury of a motor, so this is what we get. And so that's not terrible. We knew that that would be the case. What has been a bit more of a challenge than last time, though, has been my seasickness. So last time we were coming right off of a voyage to Bermuda, and so I was totally used to the water and the rocking of the boat and everything. This time around, we're coming off of 10 months on land with the boat not even being in a slip in a marina. It was kind of like going from nothing to everything all at once for my body, and so it definitely reset itself while we were on land, and going straight from nothing to the middle of the ocean, as you will when you are leaving the Azores, was a shock to my system. And so I spent the last 5.5 days completely out of commission, not being able to keep any food down and just really being useless and miserable. But the good news is that seems to have passed so far. The winds have really let up today, which means that I'm able to kind of like get my bearings again and relax. So I think things are gonna be better from here on out.
In the sun, at noon, it gets up to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. At night, it goes down to 58, which isn't a huge variance. But when there's no sun on you, it is so cold! Because you got, 20 knots of wind at 58 degrees. That's a really cold wind chill. So, can't wait for the sun to come out from these clouds so I can get some warmth.
So, as you know, the electric motor really sets us apart from other cruisers, but our other big thing is our Dyneema synthetic rigging.
So it's not that the rigging gets weaker or something when it's cold. What happens is, you know how ice, or when water freezes, it actually expands, where most everything else contracts when it gets really cold? So Dyneema is the same way. So it has a positive coefficient of thermal expansion. So as it cools off, it gets longer. And your mast gets shorter, so you have a shorter mast and a longer stay, so you get really slack rigging. So the problem is when we put up a lot of sails, the mast simply leans over further than we would have wanted it to. So it's like having really slack rigging. You're not supposed to do that. So that's the issue. So what we've been doing is we just keep everything to a lower set of shrouds. That way it's not all the way up at the top of the cap shrouds and not as much force put on them. That way the out of tuneness isn't that magnified.
Yeah, so it's been a not so pleasant passage so far. We have gained a lot of miles, which is absolutely awesome, but honestly, I'll take comfort over miles, and I think Herbie would be the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see what the weather has in store for us for the rest. We're only about halfway through, not even. So we've got a long way to go, but
about a third.
We're about a third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sun's back.
The sun is back. Is it off?
It's back on.
You're kidding, Billy said, his voice touched with disbelief. A chainsaw? Where did you get the gasoline? In the willowy Georgia. Oh, Georgia's a person. Murphy looked up. I've already finished one book on this trip, and it was so good. It was called Room. This is great with the gimbaled stove. We're not rocking too much today, so I can actually stay upright and cook, but what's great is I can let go, and it just stays straight up.
The winds have pretty much vanished.
Something that's kind of funny is that the sunsets are at 9.
I want to catch a fish.
We made pizza.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.
And if you'd like to follow our journey in real time on a map, receive postcards from our ports of call, and message us directly to the boat, you can go ahead and become a patron using the link in the description down below.